This is my Springans deck profile for March 2025. So we start with 3 Rocky. All the Fire Springans monsters have an effect where you can attach them to a Springans XYZ you control from your hand, field, or graveyard. So they all have that effect. And his unique effect is when it's normal or special, you can target a Springans or a copy of the field spell in your grave and add it to your hand. Next, we have 3 Brothers. Brothers has the effect where if it's sent from hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target Springans in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. These two are really good in tandem with each other, and there's a combo that you can do with them. Next, we play 3 Kit. Kit doesn't have the effect to attach, but if it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Brain Spell or Trap to your hand and then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And then its second effect, if you have a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as material in your graveyard, you can special summon this from your hand. And so the reason you play 3 is there's a combo you can do where you open Kit in another Springans, and then you normal summon the first one, you search the second one, and the second one can special itself out. And then if you have a third one in your deck, you could search that later, and it can immediately special summon itself because you'll still have that fusion in your graveyard. Now for the level 8s, we have 2 Brango. You can banish it and another Springans card from your graveyard to add any Springans card from your deck to your hand. That effect's like decent, but you kind of don't want to banish them from your graveyard. You want to leave them in the graveyard so you can reattach them as material. And then last, you have Sargus. Sargus has a special effect where if it's underneath as material, the XYZ monster gains 500 attack. Then it also has an effect during your opponent's turn. You can attach an XYZ material from a monster control and target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroys it. And we only play 1 because it's very easily searchable, and you can summon it usually at the end of your combos. And then last, for the archetype monsters, I guess, we have Therian King Regulus. This you can also search with Cleave4 Genius, and that's why you only need 1 of them. And this is kind of like a part of your end board to negate stuff. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 of the field spell. Great Sansi Gold Golconda. This is like the heart and soul of the deck. So you can discard any Springans card, and you can special summon the Springans XYZ from your extra deck if you don't already control one. And so you want to get access to this as quickly as possible, so we're also running Terraforming, and then we're running 3 Springans Watch, which can also search the field spell, but Springans Watch has a secondary effect. If you already control the field spell, you can add a Springans monster from your deck to your hand, and you can send one from your deck to the graveyard. So these 2 in tandem are really, really good. Next we have Springans Booty, which you can send it from your field to the graveyard to activate the field spell from your deck. So we're really playing 10 copies of the field spell. We have 3 of the field spell, 3 Watch, 3 Booty, and 1 Terraforming. Next we have Tally Ho, which adds a Springan from deck to hand, but it's also kind of like a soul charge. You detach material from XYZ monsters you control, and then when it resolves, you can special summon Springans from your hand or graveyard equal to the number of material detached. We play 1 Branded in High Spirits. This is for the Kit. Kit searches this, and then you send a fusion from your extra deck to the graveyard to search a second copy of Kit, and then it can special summon itself. And then this is kind of more optional. I play a copy of Springans Blast. If you control a Springans monster, you can choose a monster zone of your opponent's, and if a monster's in that zone, it can't attack directly and its effects are negated, and then if no monster's in the zone, they can't use that zone for the turn. You could definitely cut this card, but it's not necessarily a brick, because if you open it and a way to get to the field spell, you can still discard it. And then we have full Armored XYZ for the full Armored XYZ package. And then moving into the non-engine, you can really play any combination of board breakers or hand traps, but I've gone with 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperm, and 2 Lightning Storm. Then moving on to the extra deck, we have 2 copies of Merrymaker. This is always the first monster you're going to make. Whether you use the field spell or whether you make it properly with kit, this is always the first thing you want to go into. It's a Foolish Burial on summons. You can send a Springin from deck to grave, and then the second effect doesn't really matter that much. And you can run 2 of it because you can recycle this with Rocky's effect, so you don't really need the third one. Next, Springin Ship X-Blower. You kind of rarely go into this card, but it has a cool effect. You can target a zone your opponent controls. That's just for cost, and then on resolution, you can detach material and you destroy cards in that zone and its adjacent zones equal to the number of cards you detached. So it kind of forms like a crosshair. Like, let's say our opponent has a monster here and like a set spell card behind them. If you use its effect, you can target, say, this zone, and then you could detach 2 and you could destroy this and this. Or if there are cards adjacent, you could destroy them in these columns. So it's a really good effect, even though you rarely use it. Next, Gigantic Champion Sargus, 2 copies. You can summon this just by using your Merrymaker, and then it can search a Springans or Therian card, and that's without detaching material from it. And then its second effect, when a material is detached from an XYZ monster on the field, which includes your opponent's monsters, you can target a card on the field, and then on resolution, you can either destroy it or return it to the hand. And that effect works really well with the Sargus in the main deck, this guy, because he can detach on your opponent's turn to pop something, and then this will trigger and you can pop another card. But it's also nice that you don't necessarily have to destroy the card, and you can return it to the hand to prevent against the destruction effects. Next, we have Spring the Iron Dash Dragon. This is what you send off of Brandon High Spirits in the Springans kit combo. During your end phase, you can summon a Springin or a Fallen Valbez from your deck, or search it. And then kind of generic rank 4 package, Time Thief Redoer. You can probably cut this card. I just really like this card. It's pretty unique. Abyss Dweller, really good Floodgate. And then if you somehow aren't able to do your full combo, or you're really struggling with like a bad hand, you run Baguska to kind of slow the game down. And finally, we have our Armored XYZ package, Fortress, and Full Armor. So you make Full Armor usually on top of your Merrymaker, and then you search the trap card Full Armored XYZ. Sometimes I set this and then go into the Lancer on your opponent's turn, but sometimes you can just go straight into the Lancer, and then maybe you don't XYZ summon into, say, a Dweller or a Redoer, and you hold it for your opponent's turn. I know there are a few XYZ monsters that are decent when you spring on your opponent on their turn, but I don't really run any of those in this deck. And then we have Zeus. 10 XYZ decks, so you have to run Zeus. And then for the links, we play Fleetfoot Genius. With the effect of Tally Ho, it summons the monsters simultaneously. So if you summon them to the zones Genius points to, you can trigger its effect, and that's how you search your Therian and King Regulus usually. And then we have SP Level Knight. This card's crazy. You should play it in every deck you have. And then lastly, Promethean Princess. Rarely summon this in the deck, but it's kind of just a useful thing to have. And the Springans are mostly fire, so